Hey, this is Derek Cafe with Cafe Realty. I'm a licensed real estate broker in the Atlanta Metro, specifically located in Austell, Georgia. I wanted to talk about my first purchase, my first real estate purchase, and also my first investment property. So, around 2015, I purchased my first property, which was a duplex in Austell, Georgia, more specifically the Clarkdale Mill Village, which is technically unincorporated Cobb County, but everything around it is Austell. So I'm just going to call it Austell for that, to make things simple. Why did I purchase a duplex? Technically, I wish, or realistically, I wish it was a duplex. I mean, a triplex or a quadplex, because I was going for as many units as I could get. Which with a residential mortgage, you could go up to, and VA, which is the mortgage product that I used to purchase my first property, you can go up to a quadplex. And so I wanted the quadplex. I wanted to have my unit that I lived in and then have 3 units to rent out. Unfortunately, that didn't happen, but I was very thankful for winding up in my duplex, and I'll tell you why. So, first of all, it took me 3 years to get in a financial situation to purchase that property in 2015. I had issues with credit because for some reason in my early 20s, I thought, actually early and late 20s, I thought I was going to, you know, create a business, become a millionaire, just have all this cash on hand. I don't need credit. And you live and you learn. And so I lived and I learned I actually do need credit. And so basically, it took me about 3 years to like really stop trying to build up to the process or to the point where I could purchase a property. And it took me all that time, the 3 years prior to me purchasing the property, to realize that I'm going to do this the slow way rather than trying to get everything. I just, being young and stupid, you think just it's all going to come fast. And yeah, no, slow and steady is really the way. The problem is we're humans and we don't like slow and steady. But anyway, uh, back in that time period, I was looking at, I had signed up at the time. The Mint doesn't exist anymore, which I never thought I'd say. But Mint doesn't exist anymore. But at the time, I had signed up with Mint because I really needed to know where I was spending my money. And so, as I got connected with Mint, and I never really did cash purchases, I've just always been, credit, debit, and then eventually, well, debit card, then eventually credit cards. And so all of my transactions were electronic, meaning there was a way to track them without me having to write them down. So with the Mint, it started to aggregate all of my expenses. And the one thing I had noticed is that my three biggest expenses at the time were housing was number one. It was either the car or food were number two or three. I can't remember which was which, but house was absolutely number one. I believe car was the number two expense, with the payment, insurance, and then maintenance and gas. I think that was number two. And then three was my food expenses. So at the time, I was looking, I had tried, throughout life, I always try to break down life into really simple things. Like life is very complex, but for the most part, it can be broken down into really simple sayings or just philosophies or just ways of looking at it. And so for me, when it came to wealth, it was like you need to increase your income, decrease your expenses, and then invest the difference wisely. And so just to repeat those three things, increase your income, decrease expenses, invest the difference wisely. And just to repeat, wash and repeat. And so with my housing being my number one expense, I was looking for a place where I could get into a place and it helped out with both increasing my income and decreasing my expenses, and even third thing, invest in the difference wisely. So housing was the number one target for me when it came to reducing my expenses. And by buying a duplex, I felt I could kill two birds with one stone. I could both increase my income by now adding rental income to my active income for my job, and then uh, decreasing my expenses because I had the tenant who actually helped to pay for the mortgage. So overall, my expenses decreased. So 2015, once I was actually able to purchase my first duplex, here's how my numbers look. I had bought the property for $110,000, and I bought it with a VA loan, so it was 0% down. And with that, I cannot remember the mortgage at the time, but the mortgage was the percentage. I can't remember the percentage of the mortgage, but it was somewhere around like 3.75, 4.125, maybe somewhere in that ballpark. And my mortgage payment was like $651 and 651. And it was like some change, like 15 cent or 51 cent, something like that. And so that was my mortgage. Now, mind you, at the time I was renting in Kennesaw, Georgia, and I was paying, just like with the different, there's the rent and then the extra added fees to the apartments. And so I was paying around like 803 in rent at the time. So when I bought this duplex, I went from paying 803 to 651, 15 or 51. We're going to call it 651 15. That's what we're going to call it. And so that automatically reduced my living expenses. But we also had a tenant because I was on a live in one unit, and then I was renting out the other unit. Now, when I bought the duplex, it actually had two tenants in place. So unfortunately, I had to tell somebody to hit the road, Jack, so I could live there. So with that, once I moved in, there was already a tenant in place, and they were on month to month, and they were paying $650 in rent. So it wound up where my portion minus what my tenant was paying was $1.15 that I actually had to pay after I got the rent from the tenant. So I had reduced my living expense, which was my largest expense at the time, from $803 a month to $1.15 a month. And that right there, and to be honest with you, I was gonna say that was the most like revolutionary thing for me at that point in time. It wasn't, because that wasn't the first revolutionary thing when it came to investing in real estate. The first was the time, so I had bought the property. I closed April 27th of 2015. Closed April 27th, 2015, and April 27th, 2015. Oh yeah, so you have first month's rent, or the rent's due on the first. So I had just bought a property April 27th, and then like 3 days later, I had got a check for like $1,265, something like that. And that check was like what really brought it home for me. Like, I just bought a house and I just got a check, because at the time, remember, as I said, two tenants were living in the property, so I was getting rent from both sides. So I had just got like a check. I bought a house and I had to put out some money, because even with 0% down, it's still closing costs and property taxes, things of that nature that you still have to pay. So I did have to bring some money to the table, but it was minuscule. And with that, like I said, a couple of days later, after making this payment, I got like probably a third or a quarter of what I paid out right back. And it was just something that like was revolutionary for me personally, because like I said, that reduction in my housing expense also meant that I was going towards doing what I was aiming for in life, which was to build wealth. I was trying to increase my income, build wealth. I was not trying to work a job for the rest of my life. And I was looking for that financial freedom and financial independence. Led me to the, that's kind of what led me to that path, reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad, probably a decade prior, but not really understanding how to get into real estate. It was more so a it set a fire, but you didn't really, there was no technicalities of actually how to make it happen. And so once I got that check, it was just like, oh my goodness, this is the greatest thing ever. How do I get more of this? And then, like I said, once I eventually moved into the place, so my rent that I was receiving went down to $650, but because my mortgage expense was like 650, 115, I was still paying $1.15. So at the time, what did I do with that extra? Uh, was it nearly $800 that I was now not paying out in rent? I saved it. I saved it. Each every single dollar. I was much more disciplined as far as the budget back then, and made it very simple to do that at the time. To keep track of every single dollar is what I'm talking about when I say budgeting. And so it made it very easy to do that. And so I was able to save. I was able to save that money, and my goal was to use that money to get into the next property. Now, I want to point out that even though I used a VA loan and I didn't have to, and if anybody's not familiar, I'm retired Army, and uh, with being retired Army, you have access, or just being a veteran in general, in good standing, you have access to the VA home loan. And the VA home loan allows veterans to get a mortgage at 0% down. And so I was able to use this product to get myself into my first investment property slash home. And it was probably not the best decision that I've ever made, because I would honestly say joining the military and the investment that I got from that was probably the number one that's paid me back dividends over the years. But I'd say that it was right up there with one of the best investments that I ever made. And because, at the time, it made sense, like I would have been cash flowing from day one with the properties, because the interest rates were low, along with the cost of housing was low at that point in time. It's much different now. Much different now, but there's still opportunities out there. And so I still, to this day, what I would do is implore anybody who's interested in getting a house. I would say, don't come at it, and maybe I'm biased, but no, absolutely I am biased. Let's just be clear, I'm very biased, because it was such a monumental thing for me to not go after a house just for the, oh, just the feel of it all. Like, oh my goodness, it's just a house is a great investment. No, I made sure that the numbers worked, and it wasn't about just uh, buying a house for how it makes you feel. It was about looking at it from a perspective of how does this impact your life good financially from day one. And that's what I think a lot of people kind of miss out on when they're buying properties, or they see, oh, it's an investment. And that's a lot of real estate people will say, oh, it's an investment, it's an investment, it's an investment. It's a good investment. Well, first of all, if you hold on to it for a very long time, it historically, it's a good investment. But many people don't hold on to their houses for very long periods of time. If you aren't looking at it as a investment from like a numbers perspective, and that's what I was looking at it the beginning. And even today, I would say if anybody's looking to get into the real estate investing space, um, what would I say? I would say do what I did, or particularly because we have a lot of baby boomers and even some Gen X trying to go into retirement. I would say get a duplex or triplex or quadplex if you're able to. And if not, look at the house hacking strategy where you maybe get a 4 or 5 bedroom and rent out per room. I'll say this: when I first got to Atlanta in 2010, 2011, I rented a room from a guy named John in Lilburn. Was he Lilburn or Tucker? I'm pretty sure it was Lilburn. And John, what he did was he rented out all the rooms of his house. So he lived in the basement. And then he rented out, it was a 2 story house. He rented out all of the upper floor basements. I think there was like 3 or 4. I paid 500 at the time. And I paid 500 at the time. And I don't know what the other people were paying, but maybe like 4 something hundred. He had to be bringing in like 2000 ish, or somewhere maybe low 2000s, or 1700, whatever it was, somewhere around that 2000 mark. And I don't remember when he bought the house, but 2010, remember this, or 2010, 2011, this is after the crash. So I think he only bought the house, I think he bought the house after the downturn, uh, uh, the 2008 recession. So he was killing it, and it was when I came here, it was an example to me. I was like, okay, yeah, that's something that I have to think about when I purchase a house. So that's something I recommend for people today. Now, the issue is people are going to say, oh, I don't want to do this. I don't want to rent to people. I don't want to live next to tenants. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do this. First of all, if you buy life's hard. Whether you have lots of money, whether you have no money, life is hard. Choose your heart. So, that's kind of where I'm at on that, because some people, my then girlfriend, now my wife, uh, she was just she did not want me to get a duplex. She was like, no, 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 we should get a house, and then maybe that'll be the second property that we get, and this, that, and the other. Or we could, and at the time we were buying properties separate. She was looking to buy a property, I was looking to buy a property. With the first property I bought, I knew that each purchase was supposed to get me to financial freedom. That was my thing. My wife was she was looking more for a lifestyle. And my thing, well, I guess technically I was looking for a lifestyle too, but my lifestyle was one where I was not required to work to pay for these assets, which would build wealth for me over the long term. That was my number one priority. So I know my wife, she did not want to live next to tenants, did not want to deal with any tenants. And I was just like, well, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing. So, but she's still rocking with me. So we're cool. But, it's just different perspectives on things. But I would say absolutely look at it if you want to build wealth. And I'll say this: some people will come up and say, well, you got to do this, it's about the lifestyle. It's lifestyle from a perspective of amenities and things of that nature. Oh, they have a pool, they have this, that, and the other, they have that. Yeah, that you can do that. That's what a lot of people do. But when you look at the statistics for how much of our country is are millionaires, and when you look at statistics as far as who controls a great percentage of the wealth, normal gets you normal results. And so I think it's like, was it 9-10% of the country is millionaires, and then if you're talking about people who are black, it goes down drastically. So you can't have that same you can't have that same thought process that everybody else has, and then expect to get extraordinary results from a normal mindset. You have to be thinking of this as like, how do I how do I behave in the way that will bring me to this level of wealth or financial freedom that I'm chasing. And if you are not in a house right now, I'm going to say you need to get in that, because a big portion of the wealth, that house, that duplex that I bought for 110,000 back in 2015, is currently, now of course you never really know until you sell the property, but it's somewhere around, I'd say, 300 to it's probably like 315 to like 330, 340 in value, 350 perhaps. But the thing is, it's triple or almost triple since the time I purchased it, which was 2015. So in almost, well, less than a decade, the valuation has tripled. And that also means that I've developed a level of wealth from that, from holding on to these properties, and the rents have went up. So nowadays the rents, and fortunately for the tenants, are definitely not 650. But also that's because the cost to repair houses isn't what it was back then. If they call up and they need a repair done, guess what? That HVAC, or if something's wrong with the HVAC guy, he's dealing with 2023, 2024 inflation, and their prices have adjusted. So therefore, even as a landlord, you still have to adjust your prices, because the cost of maintenance, the cost of, in my case, because I have a couple of multifamily properties, I just take care of the maintenance, or the lawn exterior maintenance, versus like saying, okay, you cut this half and then you cut that half, and just looking crazy. I feel it works better for the tenants. I think it works better for the communities in which I invest. And so, yeah, kind of rambled a little bit, but overall, if you're looking to make your first property purchase or your next property purchase, definitely look at a duplex, triplex, or quadplex. Do not, because I've heard this from people where they are saying, "Oh, well, I want to start with single family because I don't feel like I'm ready for this." No, 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 no. You're ready for the larger properties. Now, at the same time, I'll say this: not everybody is built for owning real estate, investing in real estate, etc. Uh, I think I've done well because, first of all, I have a background in finance. Uh, I have a background in finance. I have a military background on top of that. So I have a background in like discipline that is very just. So, because in real estate, you have to be like on your P's and Q's. You have to be able to enforce rules. You have to be able to enforce agreements. You have to be able to stick to your guns. You have to be disciplined within yourself. And so it works for me, but it doesn't work for everybody, because, basically what I'm trying to say is a single family is not going to save you if you're a bad landlord, if you're a bad investor, or you're a bad landlord to yourself. In that case, what may be the case is you may need to hire a property manager off top, and be able to then be to your property manager. And if you can't do that, then maybe hit up some ETFs, which is exchange traded funds, uh, with the stock market, and just put your money in that and leave it alone. But real estate is a great place, and I'm obviously biased, but it's where I've made a majority of my income and wealth. Uh, so hope this was good for you. I am hoping to do more videos. I'm trying to get acclimated to seeing myself on video, because it is something that I have had problems with, where I'm just like, oh, I hate to see myself on video. But, who cares? So, hope this was good for you. If you have any questions, remember, my name is Derek Cafe. I'm the owner of Cafe Realty and Code Black Construction, located in the Atlanta metro, specifically Austell, Georgia. So give me a call.